I remember watching his first videos, and I was like, this guy is so jacked that I'm wondering why is he not competing? And that would be the first question. But let's welcome our guest, Vigorous Steve. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, buddy. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, and that's the first question. Why did you stop with all of the bodybuilding scene?
So a multiple of reasons, but one of the main reasons right now is just to get my wife pregnant. And I don't think that it's a good idea to stay on steroids to get your wife pregnant based on all the research that I've done. Because, to break it down simply, steroids, when you train on steroids, you increase your oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is the worst for your fertility parameters. And it's also the steroids that don't really affect morphology and motility that it's not so good. So it's better to come off. And of course, if you come off long enough, you get smaller and smaller and smaller. And now there's not much of a bodybuilder physique left. I'm like a swimmer physique, basically.
More like men's physique.
So that's what left now. Yeah, men's physique. Not even men's physique. I think the men's physique guys are bigger than I am right now.
Of the IBB, like 14 and so on.
Right, exactly. So I'm about 200 pounds, 91, 92 kilos. The problem is I'm trying to stay in shape, for social media. I think if there was no social media, I didn't have a YouTube channel, I would just eat and eat and eat and keep my strength up and keep the size up. But that doesn't really sell on YouTube anymore. You got to be lean. And to be lean coming off steroids, it just means that you're going to get smaller. It's that simple.
I think that your knowledge should be enough by now to just sell itself.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I've had phases where I was small and I was bigger and lean and fatter, but I think I just feel more comfortable myself to have somewhat of a physique. And I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's still all there, but it's not like bodybuilder size anymore,
Maybe
and the reason why
different, we all suffer with kind of dysmorphia. It may be not a bodybuilder physique for us, but for you. But when you go to the gym, I bet that most of people are like, this guy looks damn jacked.
Jacked. Yeah. Yeah.
You started interested in the subject before we go to the first cycles and so on. Is being on cycle, can it affect in any way your kid in future? When get your women pregnant on
it can. So there's plenty of guys who get their wives pregnant, right? Yeah. And it's very likely there's a high chance that you get a girl. I mean, look at Ronnie Coleman. He has 8 girls, no sons, right? And he was on, allegedly steroids the whole time that he was trying to have kids, right? So I think his first kid might have been conceived when he was not on steroids because he was natural, or allegedly up until a couple of bodybuilding shows. And you never really know, right, with these guys. But so if you break it down, right, training increases oxidative stress, steroids increase oxidative stress and even more while you're training hard. And it's the oxidative stress that seems to have a negative effect on the Y chromosome. So you're more likely to get oxidative damage on the Y chromosome, which is ultimately contributing to having boys. So if you, through deduction, putting multiple scientific evidence together, it hasn't been directly studied, but we can clearly see this in the bodybuilding community. If you get your wife pregnant on gear, it's very likely that you get a girl.
Yeah, but what I meant is, can being on PEDs affect the child long term? Like, in the future, you're passing your DNA and so on. Can some of it be passed? Because I heard, there are some misconceptions that when you're on steroids, your kid can be ill, sick in the future.
Yeah, we've heard these rumors. I mean, I see an increased amount of autism in the bodybuilding community, but I'm only involved in the bodybuilding community. So I don't associate with general population anymore. It's boring to me, right? I don't care about people who drink and smoke and, do stupid stuff with their lives. I care about bodybuilding. So I might see a correlation in the bodybuilding community, but I'm not entirely sure if that it's the same in general population. Let's say 0.5% of the people get autism, and maybe that's 0.5% in the bodybuilding community. So I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but I mean, most of the bodybuilder kids that I know, they're beautifully healthy. They're very energetic because they eat right, because their parents eat right. and their parents are energetic, they go to the gym, so the kids are energetic, and they usually end up being athletes as well. And you see that in the second generation bodybuilders, right? I mean, there's a boatload of bodybuilders running around because their parents are bodybuilders and they have a head start and they're healthy and they do everything right and they eat good. And so I think besides having more likelihood to have a girl, I don't think there's any negative effect.
You know,
Honestly, because you're just transferring your DNA, and then that goes into the uterus and whatever the mom eats. I think whatever the mom does during pregnancy is more important than whatever steroids you took while you try to get your wife pregnant. I mean, you're literally transferring a little bit of semen into your girlfriend or wife, but whatever she does, I think that's way more important than what we do.
Yeah, because we hear often that some women tend to smoke while being pregnant and so on. That's not the smartest idea. No.
Exactly. That's continuous oxidative stress, right? So for us, okay, we damage the DNA in the semen, right? The chromosomes. We transfer those over through lovemaking. It's a fun process, obviously. But then that's only a very small window of time, right? It takes about 3 months, give or take, for semen to fully mature. And then when it's in the seminal vesicles of the prostate, it gets it's shot out, obviously, within a couple days of ending up there. So there's a lot of oxidative stress which can happen in the prostate, and then you ejaculate, and it's out of your business. Then you just have to put money on the table, right, for the next 18 years, right, if you want to be a good daddy. But of course, with the women, I mean, they have to look into what they're eating, the oxidative stress, the stress in general, how they sleep, how hard they train, all these little things. So it's, for us, it's very difficult to get the wife pregnant. But when the wife is pregnant, I think it's more difficult for them just to really keep the baby healthy while the baby is inside and during breastfeeding. So for us, it's basically, a couple months process. And for them, it's at least, well, breastfeeding might take a couple of years sometimes, so it's a couple of years. And so we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves for having to come off steroids if you want to do everything right, because I think it will be way harder on my wife when she does get pregnant. The problem is when you're 40 years old and you both have a history with PEDs, then it just takes more time to get pregnant altogether. So yeah, it's been, yeah. So we probably have to do intrauterine insemination or IVF.
When speaking about the genetics and DNA, imagine what is going to come out, so-called from Courtney and Sebum. It's like me, Ronnie Coleman, 100%.
And you'll see their child will have nothing to do with bodybuilding.
No,
because both of the parents are Mr. Olympia, right?
Some athletic properties, but not in the bodybuilding.
They're probably like, fuck this, dad was a bodybuilder, mom was a bikini competitor. I want to be a musician. You never know, dude. But if they decide to go into bodybuilding, then they probably have the best shape ever.
Yeah, that's like the perfect scenario.
Yeah, I think it's the same as me and my wife. Like, my wife competed at the World Championships at WBPF, which is a drug-tested federation, on the day of the competition. So, we'll take that with a grain of salt. Natural on the day of the show. But she won the World Championships 3 times or 4 times. And the Asian Championships 3 times, and then of course the local Mr. Thailand, the nationals, she won that 1 time, Southeast Asia. So she's won like half the shows that she ever entered. So she has elite genetics, and I think if I put my genetics with her, then we'll have some freaky kids. Yeah.
Once you're done with getting your wife pregnant, you are going back to the bodybuilding lifestyle, or
yes, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I miss it too much. Like today I had a workout, and normally you're a certain strength and size, right? And today I train, I'm like, man, this kind of sucks. It's been a year now since I had a good workout. And of course I'm comparing having a good workout on a little bit of test and some GH and some good stuff. And you know how it is, like when you're fully dialed in and you're fucking strong and you get a mad pump, and then your workout is done and you're, high on endorphins, and you look in the mirror and you're like spider veins everywhere and a separation everywhere and you're mad pumped. That's the best feeling ever. So I haven't had that for a year now, and I'm really starting to miss it. So as soon as my wife is pregnant or we go with IVF, then I'm right back on TRT at least, and then I'll just slowly start building up, depending on how it goes.
When people say, it's going to be only 1 cycle, it's never going to be only one cycle. Once
No.
you get this, once you feel what we felt, or I feel right now,
Mhm.
you don't want to come back. It's addicting.
Yeah.
It's addictive
Yeah.
as hell. And
it's both psychological and physical, right?
yeah,
Because
both.
psychologically, I feel like 80% of what I used to be, even though I'm still ahead of natural Steve, right? I mean, I was drug free for 11 years, so I was a good amount of time without performance enhancing drugs. And even though I'm probably well more ahead now because I'm eating better, I'm more financially secure, I can take care of myself better because I know the high of being on a good amount of steroids and GH and everything else. You just they come down and I know it's not the same, man.
No.
It's not
And if someone
no.
says otherwise, he's lying.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
or
there
they're
are a lot of
disgruntled.
liars. There are a lot of liars in our industry. Do you remember your first cycle when you started?
Yeah, it was very basic. So I did a lot of research on steroid.com. Probably
Always when someone says it's basic, I always have this picture of Ronnie Coleman saying, just basic stuff.
yeah, it is the basic
Animal.
Dianabol.
Yeah, just
So
basic stuff.
so I was reading a lot on steroid.com and I read all the cycle logs. I did that for years. So you see all these guys with 500 tests and a 30 milligrams Dianabol kickstart, right? And then the first 2 weeks, everybody is having a great time. And in week 3, 4, gyno, acne, bloat, water retention, blood pressure issues. So it's like, you know what? I'm not going to take the D-ball. I'm going to start conservatively with an ampule of test, which is now considered TRT. But back then, TRT, nobody talked about that, right? Hormone replacement therapy in 2009, 2010, it was an afterthought. You did cycles or you did not.
Yep.
So my first cycle was 250 tests per week, 125 milligrams Sunday morning and Wednesday evening, right? Perfectly in the middle of the week. With an aromatase inhibitor. I can't remember how much Arimidex I used. I think it was like 0.5 milligram per injection. And then I wanted to bulk. So I went from 88 kilos to 92 kilos in like 3-4 weeks or something. So I gained about 1 kilo per week. I got very strong very fast because I was already, well trained, well dieted. Again, drug free for 10, 11 years. And then after a while, I was eating like 5,200 calories, but I was getting leaner. So it's like, you know what? It's a great point to start dieting. Right. So I slowly cut my calories down. I increased my cardio and I ended up like, I think 78 kilos pretty lean. And then I threw in the Winstrol and because then I was like, okay, fuck it. Now I'm going to do test probe and injectable Winstrol. I was able to get those Zombon, the Desma Winstrols.
Yeah,
The injectable.
the injectable.
Man,
They hurt us. They hurt a lot.
they hurt a lot, yeah. So I mixed them with the testosterone propionate. At that time, I didn't know. So I would do like 1 cc test probe, 1 cc Winstrol, right? So that's 50 milligrams test probe. Yeah, I didn't know. I thought I had stupid mistakes. So I would inject that everywhere, in my quads, in my delts, in my shoulders, and man, glutes. It was very, very painful. But in the end, I ended up looking pretty good.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel.
It's a really smart beginner cycle.
Yeah, because I did so much research and I realized that all these guys were having so many problems with what was generally recommended with high 500 tests. And I realized, like, wait a minute, if the human body makes like 7 milligrams of testosterone per day, right, that's, well, that's like not even 100 milligrams per week. So why would I start with like 5 times as much? Right. So my first cycle was absolutely great. I had a foundation, right? I blew up. I got lean. I took my pictures. I was happy with the pictures. I did my post-cycle therapy. I came off. I recovered just fine. And then I traveled Asia for a year.
What happened
So
when you traveled Asia? You lost a lot?
I lost all my gains. Yeah, of course. I lost all my gains and I got skinny fat. So
Yeah,
this is a funny story. I came back after a year of backpacking, right? I came back and I go to the same gym. Nobody recognized me because I was so small. I was way smaller than now. And now I'm already small. So I came back to the gym and I started doing biceps, right? And one of those assholes came up to me. Now, that's not how you do bicep curls. You have to do it like this. I'm just like, yeah, sure. That's fine. So of course, when I came back, I started to cycle again, right? 250 test. And I think I added an Anavar or something like that. within 3 months, this guy came up to me and said, "What the fuck are you doing?" Because I completely recomped, right? I knew how to diet, I knew how to train, and I knew how to utilize the drugs. So I went from skinny fat to maybe 72 kilos, skinny fat. It was really bad. I blew up to 90 kilos within 3 months, but I was lean. I had abs. So people were freaking out. It was so much fun. And then after that, I started experimenting and doing stupid cycles from the GH15 board.
Oh,
So
that was like the worst board ever, in which each of us believed.
yeah, no, we all believed in that.
That's
Yeah,
for sure what Nasser did.
I think Nasser and a couple other guys, and you know, I mean, it could have been Blockhead from Get Big or some other guys shared accounts, and or Aaron Sigerman. I mean, there were so many people rumored to be part of that board, you know, and it's yeah, I think we all learned the hard way through that board, not to make a dose train and not to make a dose thyroid hormones, and I'm happy that board is offline now. But in the first year, I mean, I'll be honest, the first year on GH15, I met so many cool people, dude. A lot of people that turned out to be big names. I met people that are here in Thailand now, very well connected through the GH15 board. Yeah, and they're still friends to this day. I still see them at the gym, and we laugh about kick trope and and all that stuff.
There was a Russian mix. Oh, it was strongest as hell.
Inotropin.
No. It was something. Boston used it once. Russian mix. If I recall it, I will say about speak about it. Surely, it was something with bowling. Sheila Bolin.
Sila Bolin. Was that
Like
no?
a mix of Diana Ball, Anadrol, and some like two more compounds. Esdrol and something more. It was so strong, but it was so toxic. Oh,
Probably it's a methyl trend in there also, like 1 milligram methyl trend to kind of finish it off.
But probably, yeah, it was so toxic on your body that no Tutka would help you with that.
No, right. Yeah, no Tutka in the world. Yeah, so this is what they would kind of edge everybody on the GH15 board. We have these sources with private blends, and they would make like Superdrol, Anadrol, and methyl test or methyl trend blended in guaiacol, which is like the worst oil you can inject into your body. And we'd all take it because the information wasn't there. So after that board, I just realized like, fuck man, this community is fucking insane, and we're just trying to kill each other. So we got to level up. And so I started learning a lot more. And then, of course, you know, after a couple of years of coaching, you realize what is right and what is wrong. And then at one point, I felt comfortable enough to kind of take that information public, you know, and I'm happy to see that guys like you and then there's so many other people on YouTube, they're just willing to talk about it openly. And because before on the message boards, everybody was anonymous and you had no idea who you listened to. And we learned the hard way, unfortunately. And now you can go on YouTube and like if you look at me, you think I'm small, you don't want to take advice. Okay, that's fine, right? Fair is fair. So that maybe go get advice from somebody who's bigger, and then at least you can kind of see its person knows what he's talking about.
You know, the problem is that people are now like there are two camps. One is once you take too much or say that you take too much, they will call you insane. And when you say that you are taking small doses, so to speak, small doses, because like Holinshad posted his cycle and it was like he's like 1 week out. So it's 700 test, 700 primo, 700 mast, and like 300 tren. It's normal cycle, which most of them run. Most of pros run like this. Perhaps a little bit
I've
more.
run cycles like that. I didn't look anywhere close to being a pro, but that's, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly. You know, there are some people who run way more, but there are exceptions. And there are two camps. One you are going to be called insane, and one you are going to be called liar. So
you can't win
your camp.
Yeah, you can't win. So I mean, I've done high dose cycles in the past, and then the TRT community, the guys who are just getting started, they're because TRT is just the beginning, and then after a while, Pandora's box opens, and it's never just TRT, it's TRT, and then Primo, and then TRT, Primo, and GH, and Cialis, right? You know how it goes. So in the beginning, they're like, "Oh, Steve, you did like a cycle of 2.5 grams of gear."
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I did 2.5 grams of test. It was fucking great. Would I do that now? No, probably not. And then you talk with other bodybuilders, like hardcore bodybuilders who are like 300 pounds most of their lives, and you tell them about 2,500 tests, and they're like, "Oh, that's cute. I do 3,500."
But you know what's the
Plus
worst thing?
a gram of tren.
Well, you know what's the worst thing? Once you hear about it, you're like, perhaps
Maybe.
if he ran
Yeah.
that, why shouldn't I? And I bet no one can tell me one thing, that if you look great on 200 trend weekly, you haven't tried 300 or 400.
True.
And
Or 700.
yeah, it kind of feels a little bit better. I look a little bit more veiny. And then you get to a point when you are like, it wasn't fucking worth it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, with all the side effects and you go crazy, right? I think we all have to go through this process, through experimentation, try to figure out what works. And in the end, like the cycles are going to be vastly different because the stuff that I would consider using now is completely different than the stuff I started with. Like, I don't want to use Trin anymore. I'd rather do like a gram of test and a gram of Primo and a little bit of Anavar and then use all the peptides. Like we talked about Increlex. I mean, I have access to that now. I have a big fat stock at home, right?
Yeah,
and it's just sitting there for the day that I
you spoke about it with Roman, I think.
yeah, it's probably quite a bit Roman. So he had access to one box, and then I got a guy here in Singapore who had like 50 of them. So I bought a lot.
I bought 50.
Yeah, no, I didn't buy 50. Now I send it to like a couple of VIP clients that are financially secure because it's expensive, right? So I let a couple guys know so they could clear out the stock, and he kept a good amount for himself because he's an IFB pro and he wanted to go from classic to open. So I bought like 8 boxes. I used 2 so far, but I mean, right now without steroids, it's kind of wasting. It's wasting. So I still got 6 boxes left, and they're just sitting there waiting for when my day is, to make a small comeback.
For the right time.
Yeah.
I want to interrupt and say that we're not doctors. It's just, a simple friendly conversation. We're bollocking a little. So take it with a grain of salt, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just don't take everything so into yourself, what we say.
Take it as an opportunity on what not to do.
Yeah, I think it's just like a good learning lesson.
Exactly.
Okay, so when speaking about the first cycle, what should we consider before even going on cycle?
Well, so we have to differentiate between cycles and hormone replacement therapy, right? If you have a medical reason for exogenous testosterone, and you can prove that with blood work, right? You've tried everything already. You improved your sleep, you improved your diet, you go to the gym, you improved your lifestyle, you got your body fat levels down, right? If you can't see your dick, maybe that's the reason why. Yeah, I mean, there's many guys. If you look down and you can't see anything, all you see is bush, and it's your abs, not from your actual penis, then it's just, you got to get lean. You got to improve your lifestyle. So let's assume you've tried everything already and your testosterone levels are still low. You have a medical reason to go on hormone replacement therapy, right? I'm not against that at all, but it's not a steroid cycle. When I started steroids, I was 26 years old. My testosterone levels were 620 nanograms per deciliter. That's middle of the range. I could have had that a little bit higher, but I was a business consultant. I was stressed. I was working 80 hours per week. I brought all my meals. I didn't miss workouts, but I was not in an ideal environment to have like a good bodybuilding outcome. Still, I called it a cycle. 250 tests was my first cycle. TRT didn't exist, and I would not consider myself to go on TRT at the time because my testosterone levels were fine. Was it ideal for bodybuilding? No. So you have to differentiate between that. Do you want a cycle or do you want TRT? If you want a cycle, you can look into HCG monotherapy first. I know it's boring. You're edging, you're waiting. Like, I want to go on cycle, but maybe try to see how much testosterone you can actually produce. Because, like if you want to be a hardcore bodybuilder, okay, fine. HCG monotherapy, it's child's play, you know, and clomiphene monotherapy, it's child's play compared to 1 ampule of testosterone per week. But if you want to take it gradually and you think about kids and you want to see how you feel or what your testosterone could do, maybe look into that first. Okay, you experiment with ATG monotherapy or clomiphene monotherapy, see how much testosterone you can get. Go on ATG 250 IOs 3 times per week to sustain testicular function, and then start with an amp of test. You could even start with 150 tests, you know. But of course, if you're a bodybuilder, you're not going to say, fuck, I'm going to do TRT. You're just going to start a cycle. So I think a good starting point of a cycle is 1 amp of test per week. And ideally, you do daily microadministration, so you have stable serum levels, not too much conversion into estrogen, not too much conversion into DHT. And then you add in ATG on top, 250 IOs 3 times per week for testicular function, and you give yourself 4 to 6 weeks, see what happens, right? Because by the 6-week mark, your serum levels should be kind of maximized, right? Depending if you take enanthate or cypionate or whatever. And then you're doing some blood work, see where your estrogen levels are at, where your lipids are at, what happened to your blood work parameters. And then look into increasing the dose if you want. But if you get great results still, why increase the dose, right? It really depends on the patients. Like some bodybuilders are just so fucking gung-ho on gaining size. And once you make that switch, like, okay, I was natural. I did my 5 years of, 5 years of natural lifting, right? I did a couple diets naturally. I got shredded naturally. I got as big as I could naturally. Now I want to see what's behind door number 2. Okay, testosterone, bioidentical. ATG, somewhat bioidentical, but at least your testicles are still active. And then I would add in growth hormone. Also bioidentical. Yeah.
Interesting because, you know, some people are like, you should wait with your GH for as long as possible. But when we speak about, as you said, the healthy approach, small dose of GH is going to be better than, for example, DECA.
Absolutely. Minimal side effects. Right? DECA can increase the conversion of testosterone into estrogen. So you get water retention or increased blood pressure or gyno or acne. Right? I mean, we're just because we want to look big doesn't mean we have to also suffer with these terrible side effects that people used to suffer from. So, okay, DECA is going to give you water and growth hormone is going to give you water. But growth hormone makes your skin look better, right? It doesn't give you acne. And the blood pressure that you get from the growth hormone is more manageable than the blood pressure you get from the DECA. So I would stick with bioidentical stuff first, test, GH, HCG. And then, dude, if you're a bodybuilder, I would throw in the insulin. And I always get shit when I say this, like, why would you insulin this and that? But you're a bodybuilder, right? You eat on time, right? You manage your blood glucose levels, right? You train. You know how to supplement your electrolytes in. You're dedicated. This is your fucking passion. So instead of throwing in the tren or the DECA or whatever, test GH, insulin, HCG. And if you don't know how to use insulin, get a fucking coach. So you can do it on 250 tests, 2 units of a growth hormone, and maybe 10 IUs of long-acting insulin. This will already turn you into a freak, and your blood work parameters will barely change. Right? And plus, you're well ahead of all these other bodybuilders that are experimenting with tren and experimenting with DECA and going through all the side effects and turning into mental, fuck-ups, right? Because they're too angry and too sweaty and you're just laughing because test will make you feel good, GH will make you feel good, and insulin will make you feel good. And it will turn you into a freak on these 3 alone because you can increase the test from 250 to 375 and the GH from 2 to 4 and the insulin from 10 to 15, right? And maybe you add in a little bit of Humalog. So I would rather look into that. If I had a time machine, I would do it exactly like that.
I think the same. You know, I would also as well consider the telmisartan.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the ancillaries to stay healthy. Yeah, I agree.
Just to help keep yourself healthy, like 20 mgs to prevent your left vertical from being enlarged. But
I agree.
As you said, those are poor things because of the ACG, which work great and they work in the different pathways as well.
Right.
So you're starting with the different pathways, and people are so scared of insulin, especially the long-acting one, not understanding that, for example, Lantus, it's like if you would inject 24 IUs of Lantus, you have 1 IU per hour.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's like, and
it's not a big deal.
What about Lantus and insulin sensitivity?
So a lot of people complain about this, right? And the good thing is if you start doing research on testosterone replacement therapy for diabetics, testosterone replacement therapy improves insulin sensitivity in type 2 diabetes, which is basically poor insulin sensitivity, right? Type 1 diabetes is not enough production of insulin in the pancreas, and type 2 diabetes is just poor insulin sensitivity due to lifestyle, right? Too much saturated fat, obesity, the poor lifestyle choices. So let's say you're doing everything right. You eat healthy, you get your electrolytes in, your magnesium, your potassium, all helps with insulin sensitivity to a certain extent. You know, you get most of your carbs around the workouts, also good insulin sensitizing stuff. You do your daily fasted cardio, also good for insulin sensitivity and heart health, and serum lipid levels. So let's say you do everything right, and you add in a little bit of insulin to support your pancreas and help with nutrient partitioning. I don't think there's any way, shape, or form you will lose insulin sensitivity, even if you increase the dose, even if you keep using it every single day for 2 years straight. And I have proof of this with many of my clients who I coach through their first cycle. They trend naturally for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. They're like, you know what? I like what you say. I don't want to use tren. I don't want to use high dose steroid cycles. I want to go for the test GH and insulin. Okay, I guide them through the process. And on 500 tests, 4 I use a growth hormone, and maybe 25 I use Lantus, and 5 I use Humalog post or pre-workout, depending what they look. They're 110 kilos and lean.
What
And
more
lean,
would
and
you
it's just continuous, you know. And then maybe once in a while they do a mini diet, you know. You take some metformin, you take the GH out, you take the Lantus out, you take some metformin during your mini diet to kind of recomp or resensitize, and then you make another push of 8 weeks, 4 months. It really depends on how it goes. But like, if you're really serious about this stuff, then you're also serious about spending a little bit of money for a high quality coach. And high quality coaches, I know they're a little bit far in between because there's a lot of high profile coaches, but those are not high quality coaches.
exactly?
Plus you go with a high profile coach, and then actually it's one of their deputy coaches or their wives that actually coaches you, which is
I heard
fucking close.
some crazy prices for a coach, and you are not getting what you are paying for.
No, at least, I mean, I was pretty expensive towards the end. Also, I'm retired now, but at least you got to talk to me on the phone and face to face, just like we do, because I was very attentive, you know.
But
So
you didn't have too many clients then.
I used to have 50 clients, and it was kind of my
That's
max. And then some.
what you can handle basically when you are that type of coach that speaks to a people, not only
Yeah,
answers an email once per week.
you can't do that, man. But that's what some of these high profile guys do. And then you realize, because I of course people send me the programs, and then you realize that a lot of these high name coaches, they're either full of shit, they have no idea what they're doing. And I just got lucky with a couple of the elite genetic guys, you know. And this guy, you know, IV pre XYZ does it so and so. And then you look at the program, you're like, Jesus Christ, this doesn't make sense at all, you know.
Yeah, you know,
So,
but
but then,
once you get someone, as you said, this genetically gifted, you can
Mhm.
give him anything and he's going to grow. Remember the
Yeah,
old cycles, people were like, what do you pin? What I have in storage. They were literally like, you know, going to the box and picking the first thing, the vial of
yeah,
it, and pinning it. They didn't even
yeah.
know what was that. They just pin
No,
it and grew.
and you see it with the pros that are like my age, 40, 45 years old, and they had no access to steroids when they got started, so they use 1 amp of Primo per week. That's 100 milligrams per week. But but they blow the fuck up. They blow up bigger to my maximum at 120 kilos being sauced out of my ass on their first cycle. That's elite genetics. I didn't have elite genetics. I had good response, but not elite genetics. But I've seen it happen many times in front of me where you ride somebody your first cycle and they mutate. And it makes me angry because I wish that happened to me. But yeah, some guys are just lucky. They can do whatever. And of course, if there's a coach attached to that, they'll immediately take credit. But you can't take credit for somebody's good genetics and good response to drugs, you know?
But do you think that actually you should be mad? Because I personally would consider that you wouldn't be in a place where you are if you would be so genetically blessed. Most of us,
No, of course not. No,
you know
100% agree.
why?
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't be reading so much. We wouldn't be searching for an answer, because there are some bodybuilders who are just made to work.
Yeah.
They just want to get, the book, the page, they just want to read, okay, today I have to do this many sets, this many shots, this many food, meals, this many calories, and I'm fine. And
Right.
if we would be this genetically blessed, we would never get to a place where we are.
True. That's very true.
Like that, because they don't work.
It would have been fun to have like the crazy physique and compete though, but like I went through many ups and down phases of trying to figure out what worked, because again, the information wasn't there, and so much of the stuff that I read online on the forums or in the anabolic books or the bodybuilding books in general is fucking bullshit. Right? So I went through a very long like trajectory of trying to figure it out, and then of course during coaching you learn even more. So I did bodybuilding coaching at a pretty high level, physique competition coaching, world championships level, IFBB elite, and WBPF mostly, and you learn a lot about the human body. But it's then of course in that learning process you kind of take a back seat, because when you really figure it out, like I feel that I really figured out what I have to do, right? But now I'm 40 and I want to be a dad. So I don't think it's in the cards for me to really, transform my physique into something crazy, because I'm old and I have different interests now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to be 100 kilos again. So that's about 10 kilos from now. But do I want to be 120, 130?
It's not worth it, especially in the position where you are, when you can provide living, a really good living, in a place where you are and enjoy it and just have fun. And for example, compete in classic. Why would you push and, destroy your life, shorten it? Because let's be honest, if anyone says that any amount of steroids is besides the HRT is healthy, he's full of shit. There is no safe way to do it. There's safer way to
there's harm reduction. That's it. And of course, the longer you do it and the older you are, the more harm you're causing yourself. So I don't know. I would I take a gram of gear at one point, perhaps. Right? But would it do 2.5? Right? To be a big bodybuilder? Nah. Plus, I think with all the wear and tear on my knees after so many years of heavy lifting, I don't think I can even get my legs back. I mean, the legs, they have to be gigantic, right? To be compete, even in classic physique. And I don't think I can, even with all the drugs in the world and all the knowledge that I have, I don't think I can get my legs up to be competitive. So I'm just better off being a YouTuber talking about it.
But that still would be a really interesting, journey to watch on the YouTube itself. It would bring you a lot of clout to, see the formation, perhaps not to the stage, but you're going to probably record everything once you are done with the process you are now. So it's going to be really fun to watch, getting back with all the pictures of the diets and so on. Because I doubt that you are going to say like, yeah, I'm on TRT, and suddenly you're going to blow the fuck up.
No, I can't. I have to be, I've always been fucking transparent about what I'm doing. So before I even make a change, I'll make a video about it with blood work, which I always do, right? Before we increase the dose, we show some blood work, see what's wrong and what we need to adjust, and if I can even up the dose. Because I've never been the kind of guy that suddenly blows up and then people are asking like, hey, Steve, what are you doing? Right? Because it would be so easy to see it. Dude, if I add in one, if I go on TRT now, I'd blow up. It's been a year since being off, because when you blow up, you start training harder, and when you train harder, you start eating more, and when you eat more, you get bigger automatically. So people will know what time it is.
About the blood work, what would be a no-no before the first cycle, or even ongoing on a cycle? What would you just, when you would see it on the labs, you would tell the guy, there is no way we are going on?
Skewed lipids, because steroids make your lipids worse. Now, of course, lipids are not going to kill you right away. That's cardiovascular disease and atherosclerosis. That's decades in the making. What is more alarming is like elevated red blood cell count. So maybe the person has sleep apnea or I don't know, some sort of other condition where RBC and platelets and stuff goes up, then even if you go on TRT, it will be 10 times worse, and then you can literally die from a blood clot. Of course, it's a little bit over exaggeration, but if you have sleep apnea, I would address that first with a CPAP machine before you even go in the first cycle, because that will probably exacerbate it a lot. You know, I mean, your neck will get thicker, right? So the sleep apnea will get worse, and your red blood cell count goes up, but the steroids are there, so now your red blood cell counts are even higher. Right? Lipids aside, liver enzymes aside, I think that's the most immediate thing that people have to look into. But I mean, honestly, if it's central sleep apnea, okay, I get it. But if it's sleep apnea because you're a fat fuck, get lean first. Right? I always come back to make sure you're in shape.
Should you be in shape before starting the first cycle? Because, you know, there are some people who say that you shouldn't start the cycle before getting lean. And I kind of am into this camp, because the insulin sensitivity and so on is going to help you to grow for a longer time. Because let's face it, we are not making a progress when we are cutting. We are making a progress only when we are on a surplus.
Well, I mean, I did most of my first cycle when I was cutting, and I still made gains. I got stronger than when I started.
Yeah, but you knew about everything, you know, and you got stronger, but could you get better benefits if you would be, you know, lean before starting and then growing?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Yeah. So let's say you get lean naturally, right? You get lean to like 8 to 10% body fat. I think that's a good place to start. You have all your abs showing, you know, a couple lines in your glutes, hamstrings separated. The body fat levels are kind of uniform, and then the rest, the 8% downwards, that's just pure suffering, you know, that's just fucking suffering. So why suffer when you want to bulk? You get yourself lean, right? And then you slowly increase your calories as the drugs come in, and you get stronger. And I have several videos about this topic on my YouTube channel about step-by-step cycle design on when you can actually increase the dose. That's usually after like 4 to 5 caloric increments. So when you start getting fatter, you up the dose again. So you go from 250 test to 375. You recomp, because now you're stronger, your metabolic rate goes up, and you keep the diet the same. You recomp a little bit to improve your insulin sensitivity, and then you can increase the food again. And I think, you know, this whole idea of doing cycles of 16 weeks, I think that's a little bit outdated. If you decide to take steroids, I would look into maybe doing 2 years of just, again, the basics, test GH insulin, assuming you're a bodybuilder, trying to make as much gains as possible, because that way you don't go through this roller coaster. You don't have to come off, lose your gains, go through what I'm going through right now. It's not fun. You could just keep making gains. And in the first 2 years, you can literally go from let's say like an average to good natural bodybuilder to a pretty fucking good bodybuilder on the sauce in 2 years. I've seen it happen so many times, you know. But of course, the lives of those bodybuilders are very monotonous. You're sleeping, you're eating, you're injecting, you're going to the gym, and you're cooking. That's it. That's it, right? So you really have to identify what you are. Are you a hardcore bodybuilder trying to make gains, or are you just some average gym guy that wants to go to the gym, have a 6-pack for summer or for the beach or for the nightclub or whatever? Okay, then it's test an anavar and fuck off. You know,
as I always say, it's a game of rice and chicken. That's simple. It's a game of rice and chicken. Your life is a fucking rice and chicken. You're waking up, you eat rice and chicken. You go, and you know, everyone is now like, no, you can eat cream of rice. Everyone knows what I fucking mean by rice and chicken. It's a staple in our industry, you know. It's like to say, I don't know, squatting. Everyone knows that you can hack squat, but squatting, everyone knows what I mean, you know. It's like,
everybody knows. I mean, it's just the foundation. It's just the basics, and it has to be. And I'm guilty of this myself, right? I mean, my entire YouTube channel is about trying to figure out the optimal way on how to combine performance enhancing drugs. And Steve, why you're never talking about training or diet? So, well, it doesn't get views on my channel, so why would I? Right? There's so many hours in the day. But I just assume that the audience fucking knows that the training intensity needs to be there, right? And the food, like, I mean, I've been eating clean since I was 15 years old. That's 25 years of just being on bodybuilder diet, you know, veggies with every meal, a little bit, protein source, right? Chicken, beef, salmon, eggs, you know, maybe some pork once in a while, or something else, right? And then even when you go out for a cheat meal, it's something with protein in it, you know. It's not a bucket of ice cream. It's like some sort of fancy hamburger with, okay, bacon is the worst thing on the hamburger, right?
Or
And
hamburger, or even a steak, but even if you have an ice cream, sorry,
yeah,
you are sitting and thinking, should I add protein to that ice cream?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's always fucking protein in there, you know. So I don't fucking miss protein. You know, I can miss injections, but I don't miss protein. So you do this over decades, and then you end up looking pretty good, you know. But of course, everybody wants to know about the steroids. But this is why we see in the fitness industry a lot of experts about steroids. They know more about steroids than the actual real act of bodybuilding, which is just basic shit.
Yeah, and you know, I think that people as well are, as you said, not patient. They want everything now because they watch their favorite influencer and they don't see that he perhaps spent, like, as you said, 10, 15 years eating the same things, being monotonous and so on.
Yeah.
It's just a boring lifestyle. Every woman that you met, it's not like you are going to take her to a club every week or to a vacations every 8 weeks. It's not happening unless you are like heavy influencer and you just don't care about the being bodybuilder itself.
Yeah, or the influencer that takes a fuckload of steroids to compensate for the lack of effort, which eventually they come to me and I see their blood work, and then I tell them fake an injury because, you know, you can't say that you're fucking unhealthy because you'll lose your audience. So they fake an injury and they tear their triceps, which never really happened. They say, yeah, because I mean, yeah, got to keep up appearances, right? But many
Yes,
of these guys
because
are just,
it's about money.
it's all about money, you know? So they can't say that they were on like like 700 train for an entire year.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Some of them are. You know, when Nathan said that, Nathan was so honest and he said, like, I'm on trend basically whole year. And people are like, you're crazy. They don't understand that plenty of people are doing the same.
They're not as big as Nathan, and they're not winning as much shows as Nathan.
No,
So Nathan is still a full-time bodybuilder. But dude, there's so many influencers on crazy cycles, and they could, you know, be so much healthier if they dedicate a little bit more. But the lifestyle got a hold of them, right? They're famous, they're traveling, doing all these collaborations, and that's why influencers have a very short half-life, like a fast turnover, because the community just eats them up, and then 3 years later, there's a new influencer, you know, ready to take their 3 year cycle. I've seen so many come and go, dude.
what is, because you already answered my question, what are the expectations? No, not really, because you said what can happen when you are 100%. But what should be your honest expectations when you are a guy like, when you are the typical Joe, not a bodybuilder,
Mhm.
when it comes to your first cycle? Because, you know, we are niche. The
Yeah.
hardcore bodybuilders are like 0.5%, something like
It's very
this.
small.
So what are the expectations from the first cycle to a Joe?
I mean, they want to start. I mean, they have very high expectations. The bodybuilders are usually more realistic, and the bodybuilders usually exceed their expectations because they're such hard workers. But the average Joe, again, looks at the social media influencer. They think that influencer XYZ is what they want to look like, and they go on a cycle to kind of emulate that, and then they get their heart broken because 16 weeks later 16 weeks later, they look better than when they started, but they don't look anywhere close. And then it's like, it's not the lack of effort. No, it's this guy is on more. This guy's not on 500 tests. This guy's on a gram of test and train and win the entire year. And that might as well be fucking true. I mean, you never know with these guys. So they increase the dose. And this is unfortunately where the guy with the little patience usually, you know, start making the mistakes. They start increasing the dose and start stacking stuff together that they have no business stacking together, because they never really researched the drug interactions, right? Why particular compounds are so beneficial and why some should never be combined. So they get all these side effects, and then they get disgruntled and this kind of. So again, for all the first cycle guys, I would just keep your expectations realistic. You're going to get results, but you're not going to look like your favorite Instagram model within the next 5 years. It's just not going to happen. Unless you have great genetics. Okay, then you had the genetic lottery. You can thank your parents, right? Take them out to dinner for giving you such fucking awesome genetics, and involve them with your business, because you will be able to, you know, become popular on social media very, very easily. But for 99% of the guys, it's just not going to happen. You're just going to look a little bit better. They're going to have more fun in the gym, and that's about it.
When speaking about the genetics, do you think that, you know, it's hard in our industry, because if we, like me and you, would play basketball, for example,
yeah,
we both would have fun, but we would realize quite early that we suck. Let's be honest. And we wouldn't put this much into the basketball. But in our industry, everyone believes that your genetics can be cured with drugs. And sadly, to some extent, it can.
Yeah. With enough money, you can create a crazy physique. Again, if you hire a good coach, good attentive coach, and you have all the money for the drugs and you do your blood work, I think everybody can develop a great physique. But it's still going to take effort. And some people need to take more drugs and put in more effort than others. Right? Some people have better response to the drugs or better shape or whatever. I'm sure you've met these guys that in a t-shirt that look tiny, they take their t-shirt off and they look like a fucking god. You know, but they put the t-shirt back on, and then they're like, yeah, he's small again. So guess what? These guys are always without a t-shirt, right? To kind of show like I can't cover up because otherwise it disappear. But when the camera comes out, I look absolutely phenomenal. And I met many guys like that. But again, the only real way of knowing is by getting your hands dirty, putting in the effort. And then if you feel you're not getting the response you want out of the drugs, you can always increase it. But there comes a point of diminishing returns where the drugs are so much that you just get unhealthy, and you could die.
That's the truth. But do you think that the effort is the most important thing in everything?
For most people. Yeah, for most people.
Yeah, because in bodybuilding, we saw some guys who are just literally like looking at the weights and growing.
Yeah, but those are freaks, you know. I mean, Mustafa Muhammad, you know, Big Ramy, right? Those guys, and this new guy, and from
Rubiel?
South Africa, yeah, Rubiel, right? I mean, he trains with a former friend of mine, or a friend of mine from Holland, right? Khalid Al-Mosinawi. I used to train at the same gym as him, and you know, Khalid is a good guy. He used to coach William Bonig as well. But I mean, you see what good genetics does, you know, to a physique like that. It just transforms. He turns pro in what, 3 shows?
You mean Rubiel?
Yeah, Rubiel, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because people are like, you know, he only competed once in NPC and so on. Yeah, he competed once in NPC, but before he was competing in Elite for quite a few years.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
he was
Okay.
same as Krizo and same as
All right.
you know, it's Andrew Jack who is more like, you know, he was never competing. Then he
Yeah.
tried once in Elite, then he went to NPC and just, you know, exploded.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
these guys are just made for it. And these are the guys that we see on Instagram, you know, being everywhere. But unfortunately, this is for the large majority of the community, it doesn't work like that. And it doesn't mean you have to be disgruntled and give up. It just means it's going to take a little bit longer, and that you need to lower your expectations. I will not look like Andrew Jacked within 2 years. I will not look like Andrew Jacked within 40 years, but maybe I can look like, you know, men's physique guy.
it's
And
still,
even men's,
no, it's still
I
better
mean,
than most.
it's still better than 99% of the rest of the population. You will fucking get laid. I'm sure of it. Yeah, you'll be able to pull a nice girlfriend, and everybody will be looking at you. But yeah, you won't be a freak. That's only for a select amount of people, and there's no amount of drugs to compensate that. I mean, I've seen guys that goes from men's physique to classic to open, and then once they hit open, they just look off. The waist is wide, and the face is all contorted. You know, it doesn't look good. So I think you just got to play your strength and say like enough is enough. Like I know I'm not going to do open ever. Like I could do classic physique now after 25 years of bodybuilding if I decided to do another cycle, but I could not do open. And even if I do classic, my waist is too wide. So I already know that I will not place high, and I could get lucky and do a show and get a pro card. I'm sure of it if I really put my mind to it. But at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'd rather be super healthy, you know, and then make videos because
Yeah.
everybody kind of has a role to fill, right? Like I knew from the beginning that I didn't have a good shape. I have a good physique, but I didn't have an exceptional good shape to be competitive. And
I
yeah, that's a lot
disagree.
of people say. A lot of people say that, but when I look at myself, I'm like, yeah, why bother?
Yeah, the same with Derek. He's the same because Derek, you know, with those shoulders, he had quite crazy genetics, but he
Yeah,
chose a different way, and look how it worked for him.
yeah, it's smart. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Maybe
showed it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
not
don't know.
everyone
For
is made for this. That's the truth, and it's hard to accept for some people. Speaking about the
Mhm.
side effects, because you briefly spoke about it, we
Sure.
know there are men. As the longer you go, the more you're getting probably. But what are the beginners side effect which you have seen mostly?
So in the beginner, because the drug exposure hasn't been that long, it's just topical side effects, right? Hair loss, acne, gyno, water retention. That's about it. But with long-term side effects, we're talking about liver complications or kidney complications from the chronically elevated blood pressure, or mental changes, right? I mean, the oxidative stress and you know the potential for amyloid plaque buildup with trenbolone, right? You just get cognitive decline, and you see that with some bodybuilders there
Yeah, you often
that looks
see like when bodybuilders is being asked a question, if you can briefly recognize that he is on a trend. When he speaks,
yeah,
like
they're like
when he's like, you know, ask a simple question, where are you from? Uh, uh,
yeah,
and then he
it's
answers
like there's a brain freeze there, or
like
they're
loading,
stuttering
you
a
know?
lot. Yeah, exactly. See that little circle?
Windows.
Yeah. And dude, I've had that myself where you're like fully sauced and you're training like twice per day on all sets to failure and just sit there like oh yeah, and then it comes to you, yeah. So I think those are like long-term effects. And well, and then of course you have acute effects like if you overdo the insulin or again choking from injecting like a gram of test directly into your veins. Yeah, it's anaphylactic shock and this kind of shit from injecting all these peptides. I mean, adipotide dissolving your kidneys. I mean, it's like I think in the beginning you just get acne and gyno. That's cute. You can fix that. Okay, a gyno you have to fix with surgery, and hair loss you have to fix with surgery. But acne and blood pressure, it's easy fixes, right? Eat better, go to daily injections, and maybe take a blood pressure medications. I think the acute side effects of for beginners are just very, very manageable.
Let's speak
You
about
know,
the blood pressure. What would be like some more ways to fix it? Because it's not only about the blood pressure, but as well about the heart rate. Because, you know, I see often plenty bodybuilders that post their, you know, blood pressure and it's like 120 per 70, but their heart
yeah.
rate on the down there is
It's
like
like 80.
105. And you're like, huh, dude, there is something wrong.
It's Glenn. It's
Yeah.
probably Glenn. No, it could be multiple different things. So with blood pressure and heart rate, it's a bit tricky. It could be a magnesium and magnesium, calcium, or potassium deficiency because you need calcium to kind of contract the heart and the blood vessels, but magnesium is to relax. And of course, the arteries that go away from the heart, if you want to dilate that, relax the blood vessels, you need increased magnesium. But if you don't supplement with magnesium, all the magnesium in your body is being taken away to the muscles. So you're basically creating like a magnesium deficiency by bodybuilding on steroids, because the body is like, yeah, the magnesium, it's not good for the blood vessels. So it's taken in the muscle because we need to contract and relax. And then potassium is being taken away from all the carbohydrates that we eat. It's being stored as glycogen. So you really need to be on top of your electrolytes. And I think if you're on top of your electrolytes and you take some taurine for cardiac function and ubiquinol, maybe shilajit fulvic acid or PQQ, whatever the full word is, I think you can support cardiac function. And then if your heart rate is still elevated, could be from the oil that you're injecting, right? An inflammatory response can damage your heart. Yeah, I think I'm one of the first ones to really talk about that publicly. And we always knew that ethyl oleate can be allergic for people, but like they're not only using ethyl oleate, they're using propylene glycol, monoethylene glycol, all these weird synthetic solvents. And sometimes these underground labs or even, you know, home brewers, they don't put it on the bottle. They don't mention that it contains ethyl oleate or migliol, but it could cause inflammation. And of course, now we all know that myocarditis is terrible for the heart, right? And from the last couple of years. But before that, I already talked about it, like this terrible inflammation that you get from your underground lab. I mean, it can put pressure on the heart. And then you tell these people, like, here, look at your C-reactive protein. You're chronically inflamed. Take this underground lab shit out. Go on pharmaceutical testosterone. And then all the issues fix themselves. No more myocarditis, no more elevated resting heart rate, no more high blood pressure, right? No more post-injection pain, no more like weird red bags under their eyes where they're constantly flushing and, you know, look like they stuck their head in the oven. All these little things you can look into. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not maybe the beginner's question, but that would be interesting and helpful for people, surely. Because when we speak about the daily injections, and we know that most people are too lazy to do it, I rather do it this way because I don't have to pin this much. And that's the question. How much would you pin into one spot maximum?
It depends on the muscle, or if you go sub Q. I think sub Q, if you do like upper ass where nobody will see it, I think half a cc, even a full cc, you can put in there. So if you can put a full cc in the subcutaneous area, the body fat of your upper glute, it's 7 cc's a week. I mean, how much more do you need? You know, unless you're a full-time bodybuilder, then you need maybe 14 cc's, you know, because you're on primo all the time and 100 milligrams per milliliter. It's a lot of shots. But if you put like intramuscular in the glute, I think 3 milliliters is fine. Right? In the lats, 3 milliliters. In the quads, 3 milliliters. In the delts, I would rather not hit delts because of the scar tissue buildup. So, like, you know, like this is what you want, right? You want the separation. This is what you want.
Lean.
Yeah, I'm lean. This is why I'm small, because I'm trying to stay lean for social media. So you want the separation in the delts. And if you keep hitting your delts, even with 1 cc over years, you lose separation. This is why I like Wesley Visser so much, because he's never done a shoulder injection.
His shoulders look insane.
His shoulders like fully separated, right? And that is missing a lot now in bodybuilding, because when you look at Hadi Choopan or a lot of guys on the Mr. Olympia stage, it looks like they have a whole pharmacy in their delts. You know, so they do the 3 cc shots in the rear delts and in the side delts, in the front delts. And okay, it looks freaky in the front relaxed, but in the back double bicep, it looks like you have like big tumors off the back of your delts. And it's I think that's hideous. So I would advise everybody to stay away from the delts. Right? Lats, I know it's a bit cumbersome, but I did many lat shots. You just pull your arm.
I can do it, so no problem.
No, but you're a real bodybuilder. Yeah. But so for beginners, it's a bit of an issue, right?
Just
and
go
especially
to the
if
mirror, you know, just go to the mirror.
Yeah, no, I know. Like for us, it's easy, but for beginners, they're like, oh, where do I do my shots? Just do it sub Q. Right? Do it in your upper leg. You can sit down, you pull the skin up, you inject there with an insulin syringe, and you can put a whole cc in an insulin syringe, and you take your sweet time to inject, and then you rub it out. And just as long as it's high enough to the leg that you don't see it when you have your underwear on, then I think it's fine. And then as you get more experience, and if you start to compete and you need to increase the dose, okay, then you might need to do intramuscular shots, because there's not so much sub-Q space left if you are 6%, 4% body fat. I mean, where are you going to inject? In between your butt cheeks, right? Where, because in between,
would you be surprised if you would hear about it?
I've talked to guys who did all their Winstrol shots in between the butt cheeks.
Yeah, would you be surprised? You would be like,
no, of course not. No, but we're used to this shit, you know.
Yeah, because you know, people are like, people think that we can be shocked. After this many years, we're like, meh.
Especially if you've been backstage and you do color, you know, for other dudes.
You can feel it. You can actually feel the
the
scar tissue.
Yeah.
One question.
Oh, you help these guys. I mean, I used to do administrations like IV Lasix and you know, Winstrol shots in the lats to kind of make them pop out, you know, and then, you know, adenosine monophosphate, you know, the vasodilator, where you do like 10 milliliters of AMP into the glute, 5 milliliter per side, and then you get this vasodilating effect. So you get super veiny and super full if you combine it with a little bit of carbs.
Never tried it.
Okay, we'll have to talk off air.
Yeah. It
So
might be tricky.
I've done all those shots. Yeah, for so many bodybuilders, and then you really see what's going on, you know. So yeah.
What would be the best time to get your first cycle started? Like, not only an age plays the role, because we know that there are some grown-ups 18-year-old and there are some childish 30s. So what would be the first thing? Like, I get that experience being in a gym enough, like 2, 3, 4 years. What would be the best time to get started with the cycle?
I think if you again HRT aside, right, for medical reasons, I think if you know that you want to bodybuild or at least be part of the fitness industry, you want to develop your physique, but you also have the financial means to back it up, right? So you have to design your life in a way where you can work, earn money, still have enough time for the gym and the food required, right? The basics. And then after 3 years of that, or you have everything set up a month before you want to get started, right? You're financially secure. You can afford the blood work out of pocket. You can do the organ imaging if needed. You can source pharmaceutical grade gear. And you've been in the gym for 3 years. I'm not against it, dude. And if that means you're 18 and you're your own man, you make money, and this is really what you want to do, fucking go for it. But spend some of that money on a coach. Right? Do it under guidance because you're 18 years old. You're not that mentally mature, right? Ideally, you do this when you're 26 years old. You make a couple $1,000s a month or a couple €1,000 a month. Right? You already gone through bodybuilding for a couple of years. Right? You've been through the ups and downs. You got your party phase out of the way because when you're 18, you still want to drink. But when you're 26, you're kind of over that shit, or I'm assuming, right? I was over it when I was 21. Right? I graduated and was like, you know what? I did all the drugs and the partying that I wanted to do. And now I trained for a couple more years drug-free, and then I wanted to see what the fuss was all about on steroids. So it really depends on your dedication. Now, if you're 18 and you've been training for 1 year and you want to get big because Sam Sulek is on the sauce, that's the wrong. I can't get behind that. But if you're 18, you've been training since you were 15 years old and you got money and you've done your blood work, and this is really what you want to do, and you want to do it under guidance because you're afraid, because you know in your heart that even though you want it, you don't know enough because it takes years to really acquire that knowledge.
You're smart.
Yeah, then you're smart. Fucking go for it. Fucking go for it, man. You know, I mean,
that's the question that no one wants to answer, you know, like honestly. But as you said, I would wait till 22, 23 would be like the
longer you wait, the better. The longer you wait, the better, right? Because you can. I've helped people that were like 35 and then started after 20 years of natural bodybuilding, and they were like, you know, I'm so tired of this 1 pound a year or going backwards, right? Because they got responsibilities, they have a real job, wife, kids, dog, pets. It takes a lot of time. They need a little bit of an edge. Okay, you put them on TRT or a cycle, and then, you know, of course, it develops over time. And they do it under guidance too. And I think that's the best time to start. But I'm not going to be all high and mighty and say that you should start at 26 years old, because, you know, now with social media, the pressure and the money opportunities are way higher. Like I started at 26 because I lost my job. Right, I was a business consultant, economic crisis of 2009, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. I want to do a cycle, and then I'm going to travel, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen. But we didn't have social media as a money-making tool. We had a company, and you were a wage slave, and you would have to work really fucking hard to make a little bit of money. And don't get me wrong, I made good money because I always delivered when I was a consultant. So I was able to negotiate a good contract. But, you know, now mean, I hear these influencers make 10, 20, 60, $100,000 a month. So the pressure for these kids to be a part of that is so much higher, right? So again, pressure aside, if you know what you want and you really want to go for it, then make a 5-year plan and fucking commit and make it work, you know? And if you can't make it work in 5 years, then you failed. But if you can't make it work in university for 5 years, then you fucking failed also. So it's the same thing. Like a university is also an investment, right? It's required that you go out to these frat parties for social events. You're subject to drugs, to alcohol. So how's that fucking different from the bodybuilding community? It's not.
Yeah,
If
because
anything,
we
the
have this
bodybuilding
stigma, you know, we have this
yeah.
stigma that steroids are going to kill you and alcohol and drugs are not.
I think the outcome, like if you take it serious, right? If you take university serious and you go to those frat parties and you build up a network and you're part of this group of people, and then you build up long-lasting business relations, you can do the exact same thing in the bodybuilding community. You might have to take some steroids alongside of it, but I think based on the people that I know that are still consulting, if you put that effort into fitness, you can 10x whatever these fuckers will do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the same in Poland because I know how.
And you have a lot more fun, you know?
Yeah, I know how much do I make in comparison to the guys I was studying with. And that's not even close, you know?
No, I know. Right. Right. And that's through the power of YouTube and sharing your experience and loving what you do. I mean, the guys that you know from university, do they fucking love what they do?
No.
I
No,
fucking
I'm
love what I
100%
do.
sure that they don't come from their works and are like, yeah, it was so fun. They're more like, fuck this job, fuck this chef, and fuck this boss. Yeah,
Start
exactly.
boozing. Yeah, watch Netflix. Yeah. So again, I mean, if you want to be a part of this industry and you feel that steroids are required, well, steroids did a fuckload for me in my life. And even though I can't use them right now, I have a YouTube channel where I talk about steroids. I'm not going to say you shouldn't do it. I just want people to do it as informed as possible. And if they're not old enough to be informed, then spend the money on a coach so they can inform you for you.
You know, I recently done the interview where I said, I'm a bodybuilder, I use steroids, but you shouldn't. And people are like, yeah, but you're a bodybuilder, why people shouldn't? I said, because most of people are not going to, as we spoke about the whole subject for more than an hour now, people are not going to commit. People are not going to do it the way I am. People are not going to take care about the labs. That's why not. And, you know, and I get flamed for that. If someone wants to do it, and then the second comment, it was like, as you said, but you are telling people how to do it. Because I fucked up so many things that you can learn on my experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I documented all my fuck ups on my YouTube channel, you know? And I think that's important, right? Because there's so many bigger YouTube channels than us that really, you know, glorify bodybuilding like it's the best thing ever, but they never talk about their fuck ups, even though they have kidney failure. And that pisses me off the most.
Think about.
You know, and they have fucking kidney, and it's not just one, it's like multiple guys that are on YouTube with 100% kidney failure and diabetes, and they don't talk about it, which that is their responsibility now. If you want to be a role model, open about your fuck ups. I talked about my polycythemia, right? Higher blood cell and Bolden cycles. I talked about my non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm talking about my inability to get my fucking wife pregnant, right? I mean, these
You spoke
it
about it with Leo.
is important.
You
Sorry?
made this podcast with Leo and on your channel as well. You were talking for like 3 hours about your problems with liver.
Yeah, but the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Yeah, that was just chronic eating.
It's our responsibility if, as you said, we want to be a teacher, so if we want to be someone who somehow leads in the industry, or just to be, you know, respected, or to have our minds and inside clean,
Yeah.
to be honest, you know, and people can learn on our mistakes, but you will always find some trolls. That's the truth.
And this is part of the game, and the longer you do it, the more immune you get to it, because you can't please everybody. You
I
can't
used
please
to care so
everybody.
much about the comments. Now I'm like, nah.
You can't, you know. Some people just don't want to listen, or they just want to hate because you have a big channel and you talk with cool people. And I see it every time I do podcasts on my channel, that like some guys are shitting on my guests. I'm like, dude, don't be jealous. Just because you're not talking to me doesn't mean that my guests are like at fault, you know. But this is the world, you know.
You know,
You can't please everybody.
you said it best, because when I became immune, it was the time, you remember when Luke passed away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was 3 days before when I interviewed him.
Oh, really?
And I posted the interview.
Yeah.
2 days later, we heard about his passing.
Yeah.
And some asshole wrote a comment that it was my fault. And at the beginning, I was like, I'm going to delete the channel and so on.
Yeah.
The
You
normal
overreacted. Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
response that
Yeah.
I'm done. But then I
Yeah.
thought, like, what kind of human being you have to be to say something like this? You know, and if I'd done it, like delete my channel and so
Yeah.
on,
Then you please that fucker.
I pleased this fucker and I just ruined my opportunities.
Right. No. So the best thing you can do to piss people off is just to keep going
And
and become
smile.
more successful. Yeah. Smile and become more successful. So that, and because success is offensive, and that really pisses people off.
People hate it when you smile. People hate it when you're happy and when you enjoy the life. Steve,
Exactly.
thank you for being here. Thank you for teaching us loads of lessons.
My
If you
pleasure,
guys
but
are
it was great.
interested in following Stu's channel, of course, go there, Vigorous Stu. You can just write it down, Vigorous Steve.
Vigorous Steve.
Steve, sorry, for
Yeah.
in YouTube. And are there any ways that people can like buy a consultation or contact you? Or are you done with that?
Oh, no, I'm always available, but those consultations, the rates are pretty steep because it's too many. So just go to my website, vigoroussteve.com. If you want to discuss drugs and health, I'm all for it. Just go through the rates first, and then don't give yourself a heart attack. This is the problem of having a big YouTube channel, right? There's a lot of influx, and then the rates go up to the point people think you're crazy. But
You have to, otherwise
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to handle it.
No, I still do over an hour per day. So it's
I'm
it's
just going
part
to
of the
your
game.
page. I hope not to get a heart attack now, but I will see just for myself.
Let me know. Milo Sarchev was like, "You charge that much?" I was like, "Yeah." It's because
But
people.
Milos isn't cheap himself.
No, he's $500 per hour. I'm 3 times the price.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, that's what you get when you have 110,000 subs.
But when people buy it, it means you can do it. It's a free
Oh,
market.
they're of course, no, they're financially secure and they don't want to do the research. So I cater everything for them within that hour or 20 minutes, whatever they want.
It's a free market, you know, people don't get it. I can charge as much as I want. You can charge as much as you want. It's up to people if they want to pay.
I think I can charge even more, but I just let it grow. So if I'm over like 2 hours per day, then I have to increase the rates because otherwise I don't have time. Because 2 hours on camera means 3 hours, 3.5 hours of work because you have to review the blood work, review the emails, couple back and forth after service, right? So it's not just 2 hours, it's a couple extra hours.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
like
got a
people
wife.
saying that teachers work like only 6 hours something. Yeah, then check the tests, do our homeworks and so on. It takes way more.
It takes way more. It takes way more. So yeah, that's what it is. But I have a vigorous Q&A on Saturday. So if you guys want to ask me questions, just go there and then drop a question, and I usually answer it. You know.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I watched plenty of them. If you want free knowledge, and it's shitload of free knowledge. If you are not, if you don't have the money and you want the free knowledge, just go to Vigorous Steve.
Yeah, just type it into the search function, and I'm 100% there's a video on it on my channel.
Yeah, it's like, but
so I don't even need to pay.
It's like
Right.
you have the rising heart rate. It's enough to write Vigorous Steve rising heart rate. And something
there's a video on it, I'm sure. I'm
So,
100% sure.
just
Yeah.
check it out.
Right.
Thank you for taking your time, and because
Much
it's
appreciated,
what
David.
is it now? What's the hour in Thailand now?
It's 1 a.m.
Yeah, it's 1 a.m. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I love it. It's okay. I go to bed at 4. It's I got
okay.
I got 3 more hours of fun work ahead of me.
Yeah, so enjoy your work.
Thank you, buddy. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Take
Ciao.
care.